I'm going to try something a little experimental. I'm going to say some words related to diabetes, and you just say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Oh boy. Okay.
Okay, syringe.
Tough one. Bruises.
Bruises. Lancing device.
Freestyle.
Insulin pump.
Soon.
Insulin pen.
Portable.
How about hypoglycemia?
Glucose tabs.
High blood sugar.
Grumpy.
I was just going to say grumpy.
High blood sugar.
Doctor's visit.
Time sink.
Time sink? Oh, takes a lot of time?
Takes a lot of time. I always felt like, I'm sure other people have this issue of, driving there, spending the time. I'm a mother, so I always have to have someone watch my children, go in there, wait in the office for the longest time, finally get in. And a lot of times you feel like, was it worth it? Did I really come away with something tangible that's going to help my diabetes control?
Yeah.
Or did I just spend an afternoon, doing basically red tape, filling out forms and not really making any progress?
Right.
So, I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels that way about their appointments sometimes.
No, you're not. Food.
Math.
Cake.
Bad.
Orange juice.
Oh, low.
Dietitian.
Lists.
Lists. Exercise.
Fun.
Fun.
I actually enjoy it.
Sports.
Team sports I've never been into.
Injection sites.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Go back to bruises.
Yeah. Tell me where yours are. Your stomach.
My stomach looked like a battleground for a long time.
Yeah.
My educator actually recommended, sort of a weekly plan, rotation plan. But I found that I don't always follow that because when I'm in public places, I don't necessarily want to, open pants to get into that spot. And sometimes I have jeans on. I'm not sure whether the needle will make it through. So I do tend to, as most people do, continuously inject in the same spots. And I get blue bruises and some sort of yellowish skin in a lot of places.
Yeah, I get those too.
Unpleasant, yeah.
Yeah. So complications.
Old.
Yeah. For old people or
old. I hope I won't get any until
Until
I'm very
I'm
old.
Children with diabetes.
Yeah. Normal.
Yeah.
To me, I always think, and I have 3 children, so I think about it's so hard when you're as a child to be the odd one out. And so to me, the biggest challenge for that would be helping your child to feel normal, so that they can enjoy parties and activities and outings as much as any other kid.
Diabetes diet.
Low carb.
Yeah. Glucose.
Enemy.
Glucose tablet.
Oh. Yuck.
What do you eat for low blood sugar?
I do take mainly the glucose tablets because I find them easy to carry with me, and I know how much I'm taking versus I find that if I eat real food, then especially when you're low, you're hungry and you don't stop. So,
yeah.
But I've just recently started to carry around little mini boxes of raisins, and it's a finite amount of raisins, so that sort of helps, and I enjoy eating those a lot more than the glucose tablets, which I find are overly sweet.
My kids always try to eat my glucose tablets. They're like, no, that's
candy
Daddy's
for
medicine.
But I mean, and you probably know this, I mean, since we eat so few things that are that sweet, it now tastes terrible to me. Something that's just pure sugar. It's just,
you have to force it down.
I have to say, if I'm exercising and I have to eat the glucose tablets, it makes me feel a little nauseous because it's just, pure sugar. I prefer to eat something else. And I've sort of discovered juice recently. I was always I basically didn't keep it in the house because I used to drink a lot of fruit juice before I was diagnosed, so I stopped buying it. But now I've occasionally taken a juice box for my kids and used that when I had a low, and it definitely works quickly. So
Diabetic.
PWD.
Which
means person with
di-
diabetes. So there's this big controversy, as you surely know, in the community over whether the word diabetic is somehow derogatory.
Pejorative.
And I found that in my writings, a lot of the publications don't even want you to use the word diabetic as a noun anymore. So I'm very careful to say PWD, person with diabetes.
Do you think that's to a point we could just write PWD in the writing?
Well, I do. For the most part on my blog, I do. Occasionally, in the partner follies, for example, I usually define it because I think, well, there are some new people coming in reading it and they don't know what PWD is. But I think the hardcore, group of readers is familiar with the term. Also, because I've written articles about whether we ought to use that term, or whether it bothers you or not to say I'm a diabetic.
I've written about it. Mostly it was the healthcare professionals that decided we couldn't call ourselves diabetic anymore.
Well, there seems there are a number of patients who get very on their soapbox about it too, because they're uncomfortable with it. But I personally am not offended by that.
There's two examples. You could say, hey, I'm diabetic.
Right.
I am diabetic. Or you could say, I am a diabetic.
Right.
Which is like a noun, and the other one's more an adjective. It's like, I'm carefree. I'm diabetic. It's...
True, and I really think it has a lot to do with your overall experience with the condition. So if you feel that you've been somehow discriminated against, or some mother wrote a story where she heard another mother saying she didn't want her child to go play with that diabetic.
Then it has
that terribly
cloud.
negative.
Yeah.
And I personally have been lucky enough to not have those kind of comments made, and so I don't associate it with anything that negative. And I sort of think, we're sort of wasting our energy fussing about the terms.
Yeah.
But I guess if I had work experience where I felt discriminated against or whatnot, then I might have a different view of it. So.
And this new magazine, Diabetic Living, is successful. And here you and I have been working to not use that word, but the general public, I think, is more accepting of it.
Oh yeah, there's Diabetic Gourmet magazine. There's a lot of things that use the term diabetic.
I haven't seen that one.
But then again, that's an adjective, right? You're using it as a describing word versus saying someone's a diabetic.
Certainly, you can have diabetic complications.
Right, but
diabetic
I think they're saying
disease.
other conditions. You wouldn't necessarily say, "Oh, that person's a cancer addict or a rheumatoid addict or something."
You have asthmatic.
Asthmatic, but I guess it sort of sounds like you're rubber stamping someone as having this condition.
Yeah.
And
here's another couple of words: type 1, type 2.
Together?
Or separately.
Type 1, type 2. Yeah. Related but distinct, I would say.
I've had people write to me saying type 2 needs to get a new name, or type 1 needs a new name because their onset is completely different.
And the treatment is very different too. I would almost agree with that. I mean, I can't tell you how much time I've spent explaining to acquaintances and even friends and family the difference because to them diabetes is diabetes, and obviously they have some core similarities, but they are two different conditions. Yet, that being said, they're now finding more and more people who fall in between in this sort of type 1.5, right? Who seem to have some of the symptoms of both, or who might seem like they're a little bit more type 2, but they still need insulin right away. And so I guess it is really a continuum. But in essence, the lifestyle that you lead is very different with type 1 versus type 2, what you need to do to care for yourself.